Hey and welcome, it's T1 vs KT, the telecom war of this year's LCK summer split. T1 after their last victory now on a 3-on-3 score, but KT short on their tails with just 1 point difference. So not only is this a true match determining which telecom organization is the better one, at least for now, but it's also quite important for the standings as both teams really don't want to drop too much at the beginning of the summer split. So we get straight into the pick ban phase and we see that the Varus has been banned from T1. This is obviously quite smart. Varus very strong champion, and also KT on the red side. Yeah, Varus on the red side is a way stronger champion than on the blue side, so banning away this potential issue of a pick also very helpful. T1 also in the past few series always had issues with range, meaning they were outranged quite often, and in these longer games really had issues and were struggling to really get into the fights without being poked down beforehand. Then banning the Xin Zhao, a champion that has grown in popularity over the entire globe. Personally, I would like to play him in support, but that's just a niche pick with Senna. Nonetheless, a pick that is quite straightforward, early power, and with the right team composition, yeah, can be quite strong in the early game and then snowball into a decent mid game. Also banning the Lee Sin, which is quite strange here. It is still patch 11.12, so for T1 this is a four-way flex, right? Everyone besides TEDDYS has played the champion, so yeah, banning the Lee Sin, not really something that we would expect from T1 in this situation. But let's take a look at what KT has banned. And we see the Kalista ban, obviously that is a ban against Teddy. There are many VODs online of solo queue, or yeah, just look at the past gameplay from him. Kalista is really a champion that you really don't want Teddy to have from a multitude of reasons. Not only is he probably the best Kalista player at the moment, but also enabling carrier, who is the best support at the moment, is a very dangerous thing to do. And even though T1 has struggled in these later fights, as I mentioned, the laning phase and especially the bot lane have been outstanding, and giving both of these key players a pick that, like the Kalista, that can enable both of them is obviously very strong. Similarly, the set a flex pick for multitude of positions for T1, from mid lane, top lane, and even the support position. Very flexible and set. He's quite strong at the moment, punishing some worse engage options as a melee brawler, and also into some others. He can neutralize the laning phase quite fine. And then lastly, banning the Lucian, which is obviously a very powerful pick. T1 have shown in the past that they can play it also in 3 positions, even though the ADC option of Lucian is not that favorable at the moment. But we noticed something. Teddy only received 1 ban. This is quite unusual. Usually he's getting banned out with 2 bans. And yeah, Kalista is one of them. And the other one is the Ezreal. Ezreal obviously a very powerful pick in the meta at the moment. And for Teddy especially, well, again, I'm referring to his OP.GG, and I'm referring to yeah, what he did in solo queue. Yeah, he's completely popping off with the champion. Yeah, so banning him out is usually what people do, but yeah, this time he gets to play it, so we're really looking forward what we can expect on this prime and ready champion. On the other side, we see some other very powerful picks being hovered, and the Senna being locked into the Ezreal. That's of course a matchup that is quite interesting. Both champions do scale quite nicely. Senna obviously has the advantage of having infinitive scaling, but Ezreal obviously with more mobility, early power, and for most of the game longer range, has his ways to deal with her in more isolated situations. Question is then, how's the team comp built around? And in that aspect, Senna usually has a small advantage. Senna with bruisers quite tanky, and Ezreal historically has struggled to deal with tanks. Yes, there are some options at the moment with the newer ADC items that make him a bit more effective against HP staking champions, but still it is not his forte. We see the Akali also being locked in, which is also a bit more on the strange side, as she is not really all that great into Ezreal, as she really likes to get on top of immobile AD carries that can't really do too much for themselves. And especially Ezreal, he has a wide difference of builds at the moment, and one of them is going for a more tankier approach with Conqueror, and then buying defensive items like the Frozen Heart. Frozen Heart obviously not too effective against Akali, but in its stead obviously there can be another AP item, magic resistance item instead. Then T1 here rounding up their first half of the draft with the Karma and the Rumble. Draft overall being quite slow so far, they're really thinking about it a lot. Karma obviously quite nice, is a multiple flex champion just like the Rumble. They can go in nearly all positions as of now. And yeah, the thing is here having a lot of range, a lot of ability and a lot of AP damage. So T1 really drafting something which they lost to quite frequently. So yeah, they look at their mistakes, they look against what they lost, and they're now adapting that for themselves, which is quite funny. If we look at the last series, which you can watch also on my channel, they completely copied the draft that they lost the series before. So they completely copied the Nongshim draft. I think it was Nongshim draft, or was it Sandbox draft? Now I'm unsure. I think they completely copied the Nongshim draft that they suffered against, and then won both games against Dragon X. So yeah, they know how to draft. There's some adaptation, which is noticeable, and which is something that we have to call out, because remember, yes, there were the roster issues in spring, but also T1 after the Coma era, notorious for having poorer and poorer adaptation and just winning because of better players, not because of better drafts, and often being behind in draft. But let's get back to this draft here. We see the Volibear lock-in, nothing too special, not really doing too well against T1 champions. Besides here the Ezreal, right, who has a bit of trouble against tankier champions. The Senna obviously really likes to have a bruiser in front, so that's that. In the bans then we see the Renekton and Nocturne being banned. Nocturne being hovered by Faker in the first half, but then deciding for the Rumble pick, which makes more sense in this draft context so far. And then the Renekton, which is strange that it dropped so far in priority. As I mentioned, the patch hasn't changed so far. So in that context, a pick that was pick or ban for a team like T1 to drop that far in priority, obviously quite interesting. Just short notice here, T1 banning two of the standard supports that accompany the Senna, right? The set of obviously already banned. But what we see here is a Lux. So there's obviously some shenanigans possible, but let's just go for the standard approach. That is the Lux Senna, or Lux, whatever, Senna bot lane, which means that's a lot of poke, that's a lot of issues. But an Ezreal Karma bot lane, for example, could hold against that. That would mean that the Karma goes in the bot lane. So far, even with the Jace being locked in, we can't really make that out. But with the TF hover, maybe. Carrier likes controllers, so we don't know. Okay, it is the TF. So Jace in the top lane, Twisted Fate in the mid lane, Rumble in the jungle, Karma, and Ezreal bot. So T1 here having a full-on pick, but more so full-on poke comp that really spikes on 1-2 items. Let's wait for the swaps, and then high in both degrees of damage, right? AAP and AD with the Jace and Ezreal, and on the other side Twisted Fate, Rumble, and the Karma. Katie, on the other hand, have drafted themselves a more meta comp that is more focused on skirmishes, more focused on the bruisering, getting close, kind of fighting. Problem with that is, where's their engage? Where engage? Where? It's not under the table, it's not in the sky, it's nowhere. They have a Viego that can flank. His invisibility doesn't really do anything because he can still get hit by skill shots. Then we have a Volibear that can run in and then jump and then get CC. Well, there's not too much CC, there's a bit, and even if there's no CC, the team of T1 is quite mobile. Yes, Jace, Rumble, Twisted Fate don't scream mobility, but with their range they have like fake mobility or like fake distance. Then Karma Mantra E just blast through all with the movement speed. Jace E also more movement speed for his team. Rumble has the W for movement speed for himself. So they do look stationary, but there are options for them to get away. And Twisted Fate probably with a rocket belt. Yeah, also fine. Akali has a bit of a better day. With all her dashes, she usually can get into the fights. But we have Jace. There's still, her Shroud doesn't do anything here. And we have a gold card from Twisted Fate, should she get too frisky, and obviously we can trust Faker's Twisted Fate to find that card and yeah, send her to the Shadow Realm. Senna Lux bot lane, as I mentioned, quite interesting, but so far we know even if Teddy and Carry are behind in the bot lane matchup in terms of champions, it doesn't really matter. They're just so damn good. They don't care, they just win anyway. And I wouldn't even say that this is a losing bot lane matchup. It's an interesting thing here for Harp, to see the Lux being amplified by the Senna. But even the Lux also not really doing anything. Lux and Senna, yeah, they have some catch and potential, right, with their bindings on the Q and the W. But for the laning phase, that's fine. But later on, this is not an engage option. Not really. Lux Q has longer range and is a quite fast projectile, so that could count as a bit of catch potential. But they have no engage against the T1 comp. T1 comp has not too many disengage tools, but their tools are movement. They have a lot of movement speed, so movement speed obviously scales with player level, right? Being a better player, you make more use of movement speed. So that's that. So now we just have to load into the Rift and see who will get the first win here in the Telecom War. My bet would be on T1. Obvious bias, right? But just look at it. The range advantage is true. T1 really has felt the range advantage themselves in the last few series, so they should now also know how to really play out these comps. And historically speaking, T1 often picks these no front line, just poke and damage comps that usually are not recommended because they're way harder to play and they often get away with it. Doesn't mean that it's a good thing that should be recommended, but yeah, most of these players do really know what they're doing on these champions. And it helps that most of these champions are also quite high in terms of meta power level. But enough rambling, so let's get it. But this is in the next video, so till then, wish you all a great time. And yeah, just a short mention here, I'm probably streaming on Twitch right now, maybe later. Check on Twitter to see notifications for that. But yeah, what am I streaming on Twitch? Not so much League at the moment, but I'm streaming roguelikes like TEDDYS. Yeah, maybe want to hang out, maybe want to chat. Yeah, but enough of all of that. See you around.